before we start judging those social narratives, right? You can kind of tell what Luke's bias is about the bootstrap thing, right? Because he gets worked up with telling that story. And we'll get to that part too, but in and of itself, the idea that we have social narratives is not a bad thing. In fact, it's actually one of the ways we reduce our uncertainty. It helps us not just tear each other to, limb from limb, where we start to connect to each other, we make meaning that helps us find equitable ways to be together. It can have all these different things. But that narrative thing, that's the piece we just want to draw out here, is that helps us create those identities, offer security.
So we're defining social location as a descriptor of our role or identity within a community landscape. So we're going to walk you through a real quick exercise. Actually, we're going to do 2 exercises, but go ahead, everybody just go ahead and close your eyes, and we're going to do a little bit of a vision session, and I'm going to name some things that are common things that we use to locate ourselves, our social location. So just blank slate it and then begin to picture yourself. So what's your gender identity? What is your socioeconomic status? What's your ethnicity? What is your race? What's your education? Your sexual orientation? Where is your family from? And what's your cultural expression? So as you vision that person that you just created in your brain, is that person you? Do you see yourself? Do you see your social location? All right. So go ahead and open your eyes, and we're gonna in that sheet of paper that we gave you, on the back of that sheet of paper is an exercise on social location. So we're going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. Go ahead and read through. They're things that have been brought to us and are a part of who we are, oftentimes really through no participation of our own. So, a lot of our social location just got to be a part of us because of the fact that we were born into this world. And other stuff we've picked up along the way. And it's very contextual and it's very dynamic. And we all have these dominant social locations that are at work in us all the time. So we thought that we would talk a little bit about our social locations, and I'll go ahead and start. So I mentioned that I grew up a little bit in Guatemala. My family is missionaries there, and so I was raised in a white, middle-class Christian household. And those 3 things, white, middle-class, Christian, shaped a lot of who I was as a child and who I grew up to be, and a lot of who I was and where I worked was really shaped by a lot of that stuff. And along the way, I picked up other things. I picked up things like I played a lot of sports in high school and college, and so I picked up a certain a masculinity that's associated with athleticism. And I have picked up a lot of just when you're getting to sort of fill the role that has been assigned to me as a white male. It's inevitable that I pick up some stuff, and as I because we say that social location is contextual and dynamic. I would really say probably about 10 years ago I started to experience some massive shifts in my social location orientation because I began to start experiencing things from different social locations. And so I was traveling and I got to meet a lot of other people and I got to see things like, you mentioned the concept of freedom and that idea. The day that I traveled to Vietnam and had a conversation about what freedom looked like from that side of view was a day that the context of my understanding of freedom completely shifted. And so my social location is constantly in flux, but it's always something that is very, very present in me, and I'm always very aware of where that comes out and how that plays out in who I am and in who I act, and how I act. I mentioned I was working at the YWCA up in Seattle, and the YWCA's motto is empowering women, ending racism. That's it. That's what they do. And so inherent in those two statements are all of the narratives about women and power and men and power and how they all interact. There are all of the narratives about racism and whether it still exists or not. And then there are all of the social locations of who's working at the organization, who are our clients. The majority of them are women. The majority of the people that are working there are women. What's the demographics? Are we serving predominantly people of color? Are we serving predominantly white communities? How does our staff reflect the communities that we serve? And then also the values. So the values inherent in empowering women are that we believe that women have value. And if we can add to that value, and if we can do our best to empower that value, that's the direction we want to move. And the values inherent in ending racism are that all people are of value, and all people are exist in equality, and we have to move forward. And so, as an organization, the YWCA really tries to locate itself and start from that spot. And so you see things like boards that have members of their communities that sit on them. You see things like the demographics of your staff reflect the demographics of your clients. You see things like client focus groups, client caucuses, where the clients have ownership in the process of how the organization works. You see that in things like for the staff, there was the People of Color Caucus, and then there was the White Caucus, where the different groups could sit together and talk about what it meant to be, for me, what it meant to be a white person working in this environment. And then there was the male caucus, where the men were able to sit with one another and talk about what that looked like. And so as an organization, they really tried to ground themselves in this idea of location, narratives, and values, and where that goes.